On the Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Recyard every Wednesday night. Hey, everybody. We are On the Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marci Marie.
I'm Toonchi. What's wrong with your voice?
I'm recovering from laryngitis. I gave myself laryngitis by talking too much, quite literally. I was filming something last week, and at the 8th hour, I know that I can only talk for 8 hours straight from now on.
Well, I just want to make the point that since our community here knows that you constantly accuse me of talking too much, I'm just saying the Lord moves in mysterious ways, Marci Marie. But I hope you get over it. I hope it heals sooner than later.
Thank you for that. And
you're welcome.
Luckily, we have some incredible guests tonight from Measure, which is an organization in Austin that does data analysis and data support for other organizations. And we're going to be talking about how that data supports advocacy groups, in particular, Lioness Justice Impacted Women's Alliance, and how we can take that data and do lots of awesome things with it.
Yeah, well, let's get going so that we can have all the time with our guests that we can. So,
okay, we're going to be bringing on Angel, Carroll, and Meme Styles. If I can figure, there they are.
Don't embarrass us right now, please don't.
I know we are in very good high company, and I'm going to do my best not to embarrass us too.
I love it. Well, I'm so excited to have y'all here. Angel's been on the Recyard before, but Meme, this is your first time. How exciting that you came to Rec with us. I would love to start with Meme first, and if you could tell our audience here a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. I am so excited to be here. First off, let me just say that, a little bit about myself. Okay, Meme Styles, that is my real name. That is why I married him. I tell people that all the time. I get to be the president of this phenomenal organization called Measure. Research and data activism organization led by all women, okay, in the house, and in particularly all Black women lead this organization. And I'm also a mama, okay. I'm the mama of 4 humans, of 4 great people. One in which is incarcerated right now in Los Angeles County, and 2 college students, and also 1 3-year-old. So I am a busy person, and also married to a disabled veteran.
Awesome. Thank you for being here and for sharing a little bit of yourself with us here tonight. And I think the first question that I really want to ask, and I myself am dying to know, which I think that you shared a little bit with us during our cohort, but exactly what is Measure and what inspired you? Because I believe you were the founder of Measure, correct?
I am the founder.
Yes. Well, tell us the story.
Well, first of all, I am the founder, but I share my vision with some incredible women at this point. And I've also, really extended co-foundership to several people that have just been with me along the way. Measure is about a decade old now. So we've been in these streets quite literally. And that's really where our story began, is really in these streets, marching for justice, really at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. Mm-hmm. I was with the Austin Justice Coalition under the leadership of Chaz Moore, and just really was, doing work around how do we create systems of justice that may have never been built before. And so it really took an Afrofuturistic mindset back, about a decade ago to build Measure, to think about how do we use data and innovation and technology as a tool for social justice. And so, I was actually put on a panel. Chaz had said, Mimi, I need you to be on this panel. And I was like, oh, no, I don't want to I want to do that. And he just really encouraged me to get up there and speak. But when I was on that panel, I decided to not take the role of the typical angry activist, in which I was very, very angry at that time of my life. And instead, I started to just be curious. So I sat on that panel and just asked very curious questions. How are we measuring community policing, if this is what we're talking about? That was the buzzword around that time. How are we assessing the impact of the surveys that are being put out into our community? How is the police department measuring success, et cetera? And in that line of questioning, I started to hear kind of these echoes on that panel. The mayor was, yeah, like Mimi said, how are we measuring what, or like Mimi said, where's the, what's up with the data? And, and I doubled down and I said, yeah, where is the damn data? And so once saying that, their data started to become sexy around that time. What is the data? How do we assess our change? And then I was able to really just attract brilliant women around me, that helped, and men too, that just really thought deeply about using data for social justice. We then started to really think even more outside the box and realize that it can't just be criminal justice. We have to talk about education justice. We have to talk about, health justice, economic justice. And all of that then kind of came together into using social justice using research and data activism as a tool to more so push the envelope on social justice.
Yeah, I love that. And Marci, I'm going to take advantage of your voice being out, because I get really amped up and excited listening to Mimi talk about data, because it's something that, in advocacy work, oftentimes we know there's a problem, and we don't have the data for it, right? Like anecdotal experience is not seen as impactful or as important as data a lot of times to people in power. And so then you start asking those hard questions. And I think it was something that we learned in our cohort with the CARE model, which, Angel, I would love for you to explain to folks at home what that is in a moment. It was interesting to start thinking through, well, who's collecting the data? Well, no wonder the numbers look like that, because the Texas Department of Criminal Justice is collecting the data. Hold on a second. And that really hit home with us. So I would like for you, if you could, and I think you can very well, explain to our folks at home, why is community-driven data important to directly impacted communities, especially those who have experienced incarceration?
Yeah, let me say this, and then I kind of want to ping it over to Angel first of all, for her just to kind of like get to share who she is, but then also because she has such a brilliant perspective on this. But for me, we have to be, again, very careful about the word and the use and the understanding of the word data, right? So let me just say that. That's why the CARE model is so important, because data is not just numbers. Data is numbers, but it's not just numbers. And so while those numbers can be used to illuminate the disparities that we see, especially in the criminal justice system, as y'all know, that's something that's obviously close to your heart, but also very near and dear to my heart as I fight for my son every single day. And so to know the data is to have power, right? That's why it's so important. When you can sit in a room with people who typically do not give us the time of day because of the way I look, right? When you have the numbers to say, no, this is the disparity, this is how much of a percentage of this population is being impacted by this issue, you can change stuff starting with the numbers. It's hard to fight back because you have the power of the data. But remember, that data is also your lived experience It is also the food you eat. It is the dances that you do. It is music. It is the utterances of our community. It's the experiences of our community. Data is so much more than numbers. Data is our history. But yeah, I want to ping it over to Angel to introduce herself, and then to also just kind of talk a little bit more about that question.
Because I could just listen to Mimi all day.
I know, and I'm so sorry I didn't get right to your introduction because I was like, right. I'm so sorry. Please, yes, introduce yourself, Angel, and yes, please tell us why you think community-driven data is so very important.
Yeah, no. So, Angel Carroll, I get to serve as the director of advocacy for Measure, and really thinking through the strategy of turning our research into policy, but with the community in mind. Another like add in here, I am on the board for Lioness. I'm a little biased, but y'all are amazing. So just so happy to be back. I live just outside of Austin in a small town called Hutto, and really come into this space with my lived experience in the juvenile justice system. And then also as a former educator in the Federal Bureau of Prisons while doing some research on Second Look and Raise the Age. But the care model and why community is so important. You know, Mimi said something earlier that I want to highlight. Lived experience is data. And oftentimes we don't think of it that way. People will come into spaces and say, I don't have this fancy degree, or I don't understand numbers, and numbers scare me too. Oftentimes I'm in rooms with our team and I'm like, yo, wait a minute, because what are we doing here? But lived experience is data. And so our care model actually stands, it's acronym, community, advocacy, resilience, and evidence. Sorry, I don't know why I was going to say data, but evidence, which is also data, right? And it is a 12-week process where organizations can really dive deep into a problem and solve it. And so it takes an organization, an academic institution, grassroots, nonprofit, into this process of bringing in their community, their stakeholders, into 3 different phases that result in final deliverables to give the community support that they need. So it's really diving deep into what your problem is and how systemic racism has impacted that problem. Who are the players? Who are you currently working with? Who aren't you working with? Why aren't you working with them? How do you build that bridge to make sure that you're really taking care of everyone, right? Bringing them in. And when we talk about bringing in the community, oftentimes, as I'm sure you all have experienced, folks will say, hey, we really want your lived experience. We want to extract your data, but we don't want to give you anything in return. And so we really flip that on its head and we say, look, if you're going to be a part of this care team, what can we also provide you? Are you hungry? Do you need resources? Do you need clothes? And I think that's really important. And really what sets us apart, if I can be completely honest, with a lot of different organizations that do this work, great work. We really have to think about taking care of those that we're working with. The second phase is getting into community-led solutions. What's your plan to achieve it? Creating a theory of change. What are your short-term, long-term goals? How do you measure success? Right? Sometimes success isn't always this bill is passed or this program is ended. Sometimes it's people feel more, do they know more about this problem? Do they have the resources that they need to be self-efficient? And then the last piece is a community mobilization guide where organizations are able to have a tangible document that lays out their plan, a historical timeline, and their metrics and solutions to continue the work in an effective way. And so we provide this service at charge for organizations, but we also have a free data support network that we're able to provide this service free of charge to Black, Brown, and Indigenous-led organizations, which we're really proud of. And through that, are dismantling systemic racism when it comes into grant processes, right? Because oftentimes we're left out of that. And we've redistributed, Mimi, tell me if I'm wrong, over $300,000 back into our community by providing that service.
No, you're 100% right. Like it's the amount of community power that has been driven through the care model is substantial. And just like how, Angel just said, in a world that is driven by data, and Linus is just such a great example of what happens when you provide the power of data back to our community. We need to remember that, like, every number tells a story, and especially in criminal justice, in the realm of criminal justice and like fighting for the rights of people, those stories can mean the difference between freedom and liberty and incarceration. And if we're talking about the data, let me give you the data. We know that in the United States right now, we experience the highest rates of incarceration worldwide. It does not make any sense, with around 1.9 people in the world, in America, being in prisons and jails as of 2022. One of those people being my child, right? The U.S. accounts for about 5% of the global population, right? But nearly 25% of the world's prison population. It's astronomical when you think about the data. And I'm sorry to share the hard truths of data. We also know that there is power within the data as well. We know now that there's organizations. Matter of fact, it looks like my mom is here in the chat, and she's sharing about the organization that they're doing called Patients Not Prisoners. Now, obviously, she's just a huge advocate and doing some really powerful work. But when you give data to organizations like Lisa Taliaferro with Patients Not Prisoners, or with Jennifer with Lioness, systems change. They get flipped over completely. Did y'all know that now in Florida, because of this organization, because of the power of the care model, right, that there is now a mental health docket there in that city? There's now a place for people that are experiencing incarceration in their family. There's, I know my mother personally, like, gets phone calls every single day of a family that's experienced a tragedy, and now she's able to say, okay, here's mental health support right now. Here's who you need to call right now. Here's, you know what I'm saying? So, and that is the outcome when you put data back into the hands of, first of all, women. Okay. Let's just be real.
Let's be real.
Right? Okay. So I don't want to, get too deep into it, but it's, the data will lead us. Mm-hmm. It really will. It will show us the pieces of our world that are terrible, but it'll also give us an opportunity for the change that we really, truly want to see in our world. So.
Well, thank you. And, I'm just thinking as you're talking, like, all the things that we learned through the care model cohort, even as a community, even as Linus is an organization led by the very population it serves. I think it was really interesting, especially, I can speak for myself, to say, oh, well, we're the community, so we know. And I remember you saying, yes, but there's still more people in your community, right? Just the team isn't the only. No, like, you need to ask everybody else. And so I think even those of us that are in the work that understand that, we can still kind of fall into that trap of, oh, we know best. We're the leaders in the group. No, no. So that was really important for me. I don't know, Marci, what are some of the thoughts that you had?
So I was honored enough to participate in 2 care model programs, because I was, of course, with Lioness, and then I was also with my very good friends and fellow advocates, Sean and Sade Wright, with the Right Cause Urban Youth Conservation, and they are just finishing up their care model. And I think that my major takeaways are how we can use data plus lived experience to really move legislation and really convince some of those folks that were like, you went to prison and you're talking about prison. Of course you didn't like it. But then when we say, oh, but look look at what the data shows. Look at the actual harm the prison system is doing. I'm very excited about using some of these numbers, and then also about tracking our outcomes. I think that we move so fast, and there's just so much work to do for our population, women and gender expansive folks in the criminal legal system, and girls here in Texas. It's a huge feat, and we're just always running, running, running. And I think this was a big reminder to say, hey, slow down and pay attention to what's going on, and how many people are you helping, and are you meeting your goals? Do you need to switch things up? And so I really appreciated that. Also, let me say, because I don't know how long my voice will last, is that your entire team, I got to work with different people for each care model. And of course, we adore Angel. Of course, we do. How can you not? So you and Mimi and Angel, and then the 5 other team members that I had the honor to work with were all so professional, encouraging, and knowledgeable. Just very impressed with your entire system operation, and excited to see you grow, and excited to see how we grow because of that data and because of that training. It wasn't just data, it was training on how to collect it, and how to measure it, and how to read it. And I learned a lot. I there were terms that I had to say, wait, raise my hand, I've never heard that word before. And your team was just so gracious, and just natural teachers. So we appreciate that so much.
And I do want to, oh, go ahead. I just wanted to shout out.
Please.
And what Angel was talking about, being about it, and that y'all provided this training, this resource, this mobilization guide, that I use that all the time now because it lays out our plan, our strategy, our population. I'm able to use that for grant applications. It has been absolutely invaluable. And speaking to that piece of, do you need to eat? Do you need funding? Do you need stability? Right? Like, we are here to be an offering to you. And that also was pretty, a lot different than other, collaborations, right? Like, I'm here to help you and provide for you. And so I just personally want to say thank you. The organization appreciated it and needed it. And, Measure is one of those organizations. We've collaborated with a lot of folks that truly has been about it. I mean, I don't know how to say it any other way, but please go ahead.
I'm so grateful to hear. Like, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But I also just have to give it right back to our community, to people like you. What most folks don't know is that all of these people that I employ at Measure, right, are community members. We literally tap back into our community and train our community to be evaluators. They are called Measure evaluators, right? Evaluation, to be honest with you too, the return on investment of tapping to a community member that may have never had formal training or college around research and so forth, and giving them the opportunity to become an evaluator and become the researchers is so disruptive, right, to traditional academia.
Yeah.
And I am here for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Who said that some white man that has never experienced the work, like my community, or experienced what it means to be me walking around in these streets, can tell me about this life, right? Like, no, you cannot. It has to come from us. So when you talk about rigorous, research and so forth, and I'm I have all these, degrees and so forth behind me and so forth, but it has taught me that this is a truth, is that rigor must be measured in the amount of community participatory action in your research. So if you're talking about your community is leading your research, it is going to be more rigorous. Completely. It's going to be more credible. It's going to be more rigorous. That is the measure of rigor when it comes to doing research. And so it is our hope that, you know, organizations like yours that have had a care model come through this, you know, through this process, this 12-week process, because everything happens in a 12-week process, right? Um, more community-led researchers will say, hey, Mimi, hey, Angel, I want to become a measure evaluator. I want to help to tell that story. It is my goal personally, my own theory of change is that if I, you know, provide the space and the training and the tools for as many women to be the storytellers of our community, then I will change the world. That is how I change the world, is by making sure that women, right, are the storytellers. And I'm going to be very clear. Women of color, Black women, are the storytellers of our community. And the only way that we can do that is through flipping traditional research by its head.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what this is, right? Like I remember during our cohort, we said, I don't know, we were talking through one of the pieces and you said, no, y'all are the researchers. Y'all are the data experts. And to be able to use that, and we, you know, it's not often that you get to work with academia and researchers that will treat you as equal. And we have found, you know, Dr. Dixon and Dr. Purdom at A&M to be able to come to them, and they always treat us as equal, but to also have the extra boost in confidence from our training to say, you know, yeah, we can lead this focus group. And they're like, do it. What can we do to support you? And to be able to have that confidence is something that I didn't have 6 years ago when I got out, for sure. I want to ask Angel specifically, how has your role at Measure and the things that you've learned at Measure, you know, in your role as the director of advocacy, how have you seen the things that you know you work on at Measure? How have you seen that impact legislation or policy or advocacy stuff that you've worked on?
Yeah, I think I've seen that in multiple ways. I think community education is huge, right? When we're talking about the criminal legal system, just showing up and sharing the data points, typically people are like, whoa, 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 right? Like you can be arrested and charged as an adult in Texas as early as age 10. What do you mean there's no AC units and it got passed but the governor vetoed it? What, you know, and having these continuous conversations that like everyday people just don't think about, and then seeing them something light up and saying, that's wrong. I never thought about that. How do I get engaged? So I just love seeing that and having those conversations with folks, especially during our legislative sessions. But, you know, a big portion of my work is our Innocence Initiative, which really focuses on protecting Black girls in our legal system and education and especially our juvenile justice system, right? So when we think about solving a problem, we often ask who's most affected. And if we solve it for them, we solve it for everyone. So when you're looking at disciplinary data, dress code policy, suspensions, expulsions in Texas and in the US, it is Black girls. So we have that focus with the acknowledgement that it will benefit everyone. And so, you know, we've trained over 1,000 juvenile attorneys to identify adultification bias. Wow. For those that aren't aware, adultification bias predominantly affects Black girls, but affects Black and brown boys and Latinx girls as well. And it found in a study by Georgetown University in 2017 that Black girls were seen as less needing for nurturing and less innocent as early as age 5. So when you look at local data that shows that Black girls are suspended and expelled 10 times more than their white counterparts, and the fact that in 2019, the FBI reported that over 50% of juvenile prostitution arrests were of Black girls, there's a question of, right, because immediately when I tell people that, and I imagine some of you might thinking, juvenile prostitution, you're not of age, what's going on there? And then we look at adultification bias and say, well, they're being hypersexualized and they're being treated, like many folks in the legal system, as perpetrators of crime and not victims of crime. Mm-hmm. And so I say that to lead up to, I think one of the most, one piece that I will always stay with me is that it's not just, as we talked about, like metrics of success. Success doesn't mean like, oh, we finished this project or we won this piece of legislation. And so, you know, through our training over 1,000 juvenile attorneys, we've trained educators. We actually have a Disrupting Adultification Bias that's online tomorrow at 11:30 that we invite anyone to register for and attend. That's on our website on the Get Involved tab. But through those trainings, someone with Truckers Against Trafficking, a national organization, attended, said, hey, we want to do a care model with measure to look at the intersection between human trafficking and adultification bias. We go through that grant, bring in a care team, okay? We release a black paper disrupting the Jezebel stereotype. Through that black paper, we compare national and local data, meaning nationally it's Black girls that are, you know, most affected by sex and human trafficking. So we need to solve it nationally for Black girls. But when we compared it locally, APD reported that there was 0 arrests of trafficking in the Hispanic and Latinx community, which, how is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they're not counting them. They're not seeing this population. So meaning locally, we have to start solving this problem in Austin from a perspective to solve it for our Latinx brothers and sisters. So I don't know if that the shift of the focus, okay? So we had that black paper. One of the care team members from there worked with SAFE in their Expect Respect program. So now we're working with them and the DOJ to do these trainings in Manor ISD and looking at how adultification bias shows up in teen dating violence education programs and disrupting that pipeline. So it's this continuous evolving advocacy pipeline that just comes through our work that I'm really appreciative and just honored to be a part of. We've had the honor of working to see Austin become the first city in the state of Texas to pass their Crown Act that ends hair discrimination. We know those experiences from those that are incarcerated. I will never forget being in a juvenile detention hall in middle school and having to cut my hair because of my braids. And we know that that's something that even though it's been passed statewide, we're still working with national organizations to make sure that school districts are abiding to that. But then also, how do we get the Crown Act passed in TJJD and TCJC?
Mm-hmm.
Like, right, like folks that are incarcerated still deserve to be treated like human beings and have dignity and respect. And so it's hard to pin it to one thing, but I mean,
Actually, can I pin it to one big thing though? Because Angel's still being a little humble here. I get it. But, you know, we are leaning into our accomplishments. Okay. You know, so the Crown Act is not only passed in Austin and Pflugerville, but it was also passed for the entire state of Texas. Okay. That's huge, you know, in partnership and led by State Representative Retta Bowers, right? But Angel
Doja Asamoah was just amazing too. She's been leading it nationwide. I mean,
and they've given many kudos to the work that Angel has advanced through the care model. Because of the care model, it was passed in Austin, right? Because of the care model, it was passed in Pflugerville. Because of that power and that energy, that upswell, you know, it was able to then be pivoted, you know, pitched for right before legislative session and got passed for the state of Texas. That is incredible. That is huge. And so adultification bias is one of our top priorities to end the adultification of Black girls. We're doing a project right now with the Urban League and really, again, pushing to evaluate what does it look like to really provide Black and Brown girls with the mentorship that they need in order to succeed and to thrive. And so I encourage everyone to join in tomorrow's training that's led by Angel. I know that we put the link up there in the chat. I hope that you do decide to go. I do have to say, because I love y'all so much, I have my own little Black girl who I need to go get ready right now, but I am just so honored to be able to sit with y'all and to learn from y'all. And just like how you mentioned, Jennifer, about like when I said, no, you are the designers. I just got to say this for a moment, okay? This organization, Lioness, is so incredible and just doing things that are just so out the box and so disruptive. It encourages me every single day. So y'all designing technology, that's what I was saying. Remember, that was what
Yeah.
the conversation was. I said, no. You are the designers. We are no longer just the consumers, right, of technology. We're not just going to just sit here like robots or let the robots tell us what to do, but instead we are going to be the ones that are creating the algorithms. We are going to be the ones that are tapping into artificial intelligence and interrogating it. We're the ones that are going to be connecting with one another to ensure that the technology that is built for us is built by us. So I'm going to say that, and maybe Angel can talk a little bit more about some of the work that we're doing with Ignite around that.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mimi. Thank you so much. That means so much to us. And thank you for taking time out from your family to join us in this conversation on the rec yard and hanging out with us. Thank you so much.
Please invite me back, y'all.
We will.
Thank you, Mimi.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
So
Bye.
the law's making Mimi go in from rec early, y'all.
But we got extra time, so we gonna enjoy it.
Yes.
Have fun, y'all. Have fun.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you, Mimi.
Bye, Mimi.
What
She's
a
great.
treat. What a treat that was.
I know every time Mimi starts talking, I'm like, yeah, like I get up and like I'm fixing to go do something. I'm not sure what, but I'm ready.
What am I doing, Coach? Where am I?
Where am I going? Well,
I
go ahead.
want to say really quickly about something that Measure does is they don't. The very first meeting I had with the Linus Care model, Mimi referred to Black women as powerful Black women. And that has changed the way, the language that I use talking about my sisters that are still incarcerated, because I used to say, the girls inside, the girls are telling me, I want to do this for the girls. And now I say, no, the powerful women inside, and I think that language means so much. And I just love that. I love that. That's just a small takeaway, but
Yeah, no, and I told her during our cohort, Angel, I said, when I went to the leadership summit last year, which I'm going to the one this year, and we will be at your training tomorrow because we want to learn too. And preparing, y'all, we're having a panel at the Judicial Commission on Mental Health. It's going to be a good one. We're ready to.
We're gonna be upset.
I love it. We're going to be confronting some stereotypes, dangerous women in the House with a bunch of judges and DAs. Love it. But I remember that first leadership summit, and Mimi was in the session on presenting data, and she made an impression on me about how important it is to always come through the lens of empowering, right? Like sometimes, like she said earlier, you have to report really hard, difficult, painful stuff in data, but how do you find ways to empower? And she gave me some examples about what lands and what doesn't. And a lot of times when I see advocacy stuff, y'all, it's full of dread, right? Like it the data is painful, but what are the ways that we transform that to bring our power back to ourselves? I just think that's incredible to be able to always look through the lens of power and empowerment. I mean, because that's what we want to do.
Yeah, it's that mindset shift, which is important.
Yeah. Well, I love that I'm able to talk so much tonight.
don't get used to it.
Don't get used to it, Toonchi, because that's not how it goes. I wanted to ask you, Angel, specifically. I remember I put this in my notes. So when we talk about, the community being the folks that are doing the research, right? And we saw that once we had our training and we met with the researchers at Texas A&M. Again, shout out to Dr. Dixon, Dr. Purdom, beautiful, amazing human beings and researchers that brought us in equal. They were there to support, and we were the researchers, and we were able to lead the focus groups and help with the report. So it was really community driven. But what do you see, and what do you think the barrier is? Maybe Measure has seen, has it been hard to get communities, maybe as you're doing outreach to, like, how are people feeling intimidated to be the data research collectors in their community? What makes that so hard for us?
I think what a part of it is not yet recognizing your strength and your power. And I want to be very clear when I say that. That is because the systems that we are up against systematically, right, tell us that we are not worthy, or we don't fit this mold, right? And so when we bring people in, and even when we're working with larger organizations and we say, like, you've got to figure out your care team, because for the audience, organizations create a care team that have about 7 to no more than 10 folks, but it's not all people in the organization, right? So imagine we're talking to a large nonprofit or academic institution in Austin, and we say, great, you're going to do this process. We're going to really dive deep into this and bring in the community, but you only really get to bring 2 staff members. Now we want you to think about your volunteers, your staff members who, aren't directors, your people who you provide services to, right? Because we know that typically those are the people that know the information.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes, how many times have we been at a job and we say, just give me 5 minutes with the CEO and let me tell them everything that they're doing wrong, right? This is that opportunity. And then also, y'all have the data. We have the data. We have the strategies. Oftentimes, it's just, how do I organize it in a way that makes sense? Because let me tell you something, if y'all knew half the things in my mind, it is not organized, right? But being able to put it together is really powerful in itself. And I think what I would encourage anyone listening, whether that be live or at a later date, is to encourage you to see research as a tool and an asset for your community, for empowerment, for change, rather than a daunting task, right? You don't have to be a professional researcher. You don't have to have a fancy degree or background. Like, lean into your experiences, the experiences that you've seen, the stories that you've heard, the qualitative data, right? Ask questions. It's okay to ask questions. And I know oftentimes those of us with lived experience in our legal question, in the legal system, we're punished for asking questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Questions are so important. Why is this way? How many people are affected? Information gather, whether that be through Google. There was earlier this year, I had some questions about a policy and reached out to Jennifer and had a great conversation with the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities and really got to data gather. And I was doing my own research, and I was so much better for that. And utilizing our resources, we're really resilient and we are resourceful. So really shifting that mindset. And I think most importantly, take it step by step. You're going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every week, and we figure it out. We dust ourselves off. I swallow my pride, and we keep it moving onward through the fog. And sometimes there's a lot of fog. Research, it's opportunity for learning. And I think sometimes we forget that. Research is learning. You are supposed to make mistakes when you research, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, because I think so many of us, especially as women, I have to do this perfectly, or I'm a big fat fucking failure, right? I'm a big failure. I messed this thing up. I bumbled this relationship. I bumbled this data project, or whatever it is you're working on. And to understand that that's a moment of growth and learning. And that's I still struggle with that. Like, oh, I didn't do this just right, so maybe I shouldn't do it at all. It's like, well, no, maybe not. Right.
Yeah, and I mean the scientific process. Don't get me, I don't know all of it, but I know the first step is a hypothesis, right? And you got to go back and evaluate it and see where I messed up and keep it going. That is the process. And then I love seeing Eric in the comments and what he's doing, partnering with other organizations. I think it's easy for us to get this crab in the bucket mentality that says I'm doing this and I don't want to work with you all, but we're better for it. You know, I've called many of people in organizations and Jen, right? Like, hey, I'm struggling with this. How do you do this? How can we learn from each other?
Yeah. Marci, how's your voice? Because honey, you know, I'm just going to keep talking to Angel.
I absolutely know. I'm wondering, Angel, and again, my voice, y'all, my voice. I'm sorry, Toonchi's talking so much. I won't let this happen next week. I am wondering how you are system impacted. You did experience the juvenile justice system, and I'm wondering how that experience drives your work today.
Yeah. How it drives my work. You know, I got into this work. I always talk about like the officially when I got into advocacy, and unofficial was just me acting. I'd say they said I acted up, but I advocated for myself and said this is not right, and oftentimes led me to seclusion and all kind of things. But like that was advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
But I really got into this space in college, leaning into my experience in the TYC facility and so many others, and not being listened to, and the system's telling us that our experiences didn't happen, right? And for me, it's been so important to continue to uplift the stories of those that came before me, those that I was in the system with, and those that have come after me, because I know, unfortunately, it's not going to stop. And really, whatever I can do. I started after college, I helped design an alternative to incarceration program, went and taught in the feds with second chancers, right? Because in Texas, during the leg session, they kept saying, we can't just release these juvenile lifers. We don't know what to do. And I was like, I'm just going to go teach and I'm going to figure this out. And we know education is the key. And so I think that's what drives me. There's so much change. And in a moment of vulnerability, I haven't ever said this in public, right? Like, I think we have to continue to evaluate and look within ourselves, because this work is so personal for us. And so one of the things that I'm doing this year, as my work has really just, again, lived experience data, and making sure that people are aware of that, especially those that are making these decisions, like judges and attorneys, is what are our metrics of success, right? At Measure, we help organizations identify that. But as activists, as organizers, as leaders, podcasters, what is your metric of success where you can say, damn, I did that? I don't know if I can say damn, but like, damn, I did that shit right there. Okay, I'm good. And if I want to keep going, I can. Mm-hmm. And if I choose that happiness looks like something different, then I can also do that. And so, yeah, I think I know I'm kind of going off script and not really answering a question, but like, I think that's a question that I'm learning to answer for myself this year. And I really want everyone to think about that, to look within yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I really appreciate you saying that, Angel, because I think a lot of times, especially when you work on policy and legislative change in Texas, right? Like, which I want to highlight again what Mimi said about the Crown Act. Incredible work in the state of Texas to be able to have gotten that over the finish line is incredible. But it's draining, it's hard, and a lot of times it feels like, what am I even doing this for? like what is that success? And somebody recently asked me, well, we don't work on stuff that we don't really feel has a chance, or I don't know. It was something they said to me that I thought was just really kind of crazy. And I said, well, let me tell you something. I think for me and the women and the LGBTQ community that we fight for inside of our prisons, I think for us, the success is how do we feel about ourselves, and do we feel empowered? The legislative piece and the policy change, yes, we want that. But a lot of times, to me, it feels just like a nice byproduct. The success and the win is watching people come back to life, to feel empowered, to understand that they can participate in, the process. Like, that is what brings me success and joy. Let me tell you also, since what is the podcast success? Me and Marci, when we first started, we always tell people, go look at the first videos. It was rough, but we just knew that we wanted to share. We just wanted to share what people were telling us, what we experienced. And recently, when we were in Chicago, somebody walked up to us, two people, said, hey, I know you from the podcast. And I was like, what? That's crazy, right? Like, our message about what's happening to women in Texas is going, and it was about consistency and just not giving up. And like, why are we doing this? There's only 5 people here listening to, oh, well, it's for what it meant to us and how excited. And I mean, I can tell y'all, I feel like crap sometimes by the end of the evening. I'm tired, I'm wore out, and I'm like, oh, but it's Wednesday. Oh, I can't wait to give some tea on the rec yard with Marci, and who are we going to talk to, and what shit are we going to stir up? So I think you're right. It is being able to define, what does success mean to you personally?
Absolutely. And then also, like, I hate when people say that, right? Like, oh, we don't work on things that aren't going to get passed. I'm sure people said the same thing about allowing women to vote and the civil rights, and so many other things, right? Like, that's why we have this process that sometimes is bullshit, but we still have it because we can do the unimaginable. And there's so many amazing things that you can do with it, right? And so, yeah, I think more than anything, that I will say, that DOJ report that came out, really confirming the conditions of our youth prisons in Texas. And youth prisons is a whole other thing. But for me, like, that is one of my metrics of success, if I'm completely honest, right? And so I'm in a reevaluation phase of my life of what is my next metric? What does this look like for me? And I know there's so much work to be done even within that. And I know we talked about that offline, right? Because the fact that people went into a hearing and what are we going to do next? And these same people who we know outside of that room saying, we don't believe this is still happening, right? It's triggering. It's offensive. It's, I'd almost say, disrespectful to our legal system because they just said it was there. If you believe in the law so much, you should believe this. And so, yeah, that's what keeps me going, gives me energy, keeps me up at night.
I hear you. Was that your puppy? Was that your dog?
It is.
Or was it Marci's? Because Tony, her dog too, likes to shake his little collar and head.
He likes to wake everybody up, shaking his head.
Is your dog close by? Can you show? Will he let you pick him up?
Let me see. Hey, Max, come here.
While we're trying to get Max to make an appearance, good. I want to say about. Oh, there's Max.
There's Max.
And he made an appearance the last time I was on when I was living in DC. So this is kind of fun.
Nice.
Max.
Yes.
Next time, Max, if you have an idea for a podcast and you would like to come on, let us know, Max.
There is a PAW program.
Right. There is a PAW
Max.
program.
We could talk about how they're working these dogs for free.
Always ear hustling. The secrets this man could.
I was going to say that one of my measures of success through our advocacy work with Lioness is when we hear from the powerful women inside, and they're thanking us, and they're seeing small differences. Sometimes we do get legislation passed. It's happened before in my very first session. So now my standards are pretty high for how this next session should go. But the things that we didn't get passed, we saw small changes within the system. You know, sometimes the agency says, oh, we really don't want that smoke, so we're going to go ahead and fix that before. Yeah.
Yep. And I actually just came up with a crazy idea too. Can I share it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, because the session when we can go back and we fight for AC, our representatives, they represent those on the inside and those on the outside.
That's right.
What if we got those on the inside to write testimonies and deliver it to them?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Okay,
I love that.
I'm thinking some great stuff after 5 p.m., but just an idea.
Well, and if we could even just have them flood their offices with letters, and then maybe they could send their letters to, maybe we can put it in a booklet. But I mean, I know that session can be draining, but at the same time, I'm like, ooh, y'all, we get to be up there. I can't wait to be sitting talking shit in the back of the hearing room until 12 o'clock at midnight, waiting on our turn to testify on this women's programming bill.
And I'll say that there is not another, I don't believe that there is another advocacy group as tenacious as those that are having people with lived experience, because I have sat in the day room from 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. waiting on commissary. I have no problem sitting in the legislative room. And I remember, what bill were we testifying on last year when it was like they braked like at 6 p.m. and they didn't expect us to come back.
Yeah, it was that women's programming bill. And then guess what happened? Angel, me and Marci didn't even go that hard. I mean, we were tired. We wore out. We got up there and said what needed to be said. And then Valerie Swanson came to life and ripped TDCJ apart about women's college programming. She said, this is absolutely unacceptable. And then Representative Jones, asked Chris Carter, who was given a very tepid answer. He said, sir, that's not what I'm asking you. I want to know why this is like this for women. Well, the answer was that we don't invest in them. And I mean, the two of them, between Representative Jones and Swanson, they got it. They all, when you're sitting in a hearing, you're wondering, God, if they'll just get that piece, they're going to ask the right question. They don't need to be fed questions, or they're going to get it. And they're going to be like, hold up a second, which we saw in the hearing recently when Dutton, of all people, said, maybe we need to do something else. And this is not the system that we need. It's like, oh, they got it. And what a joy. That's a success to me. That's a joy to me, even if legislation fails, So I'm looking forward to spending time with y'all.
Yes. And the Crown Act too, like it was an 8 a.m. committee. We didn't get heard till 10 at night because all of the gaming and, that got first. And then Metcalf was like, what's the difference between hair texture and style? And that can't be a thing. Also like working with each other as well. I'll never forget. And I tell this story, and I think it was you had told me about this, Jen, about Middleton had a bill, and it was about releasing information about folks that were coming home to their newsletters. And that's not so much of a safe area. And I forgot his connection with, if y'all know, I went to Texas Tech, and there was some connection. And I went in and I had my West Texas accent and I had my boots, and I said, let's talk about this because this ain't making no sense. And it was a great time. And I forgot what happened to the bill because it didn't go anywhere. But I think that's my favorite part about working with different organizations. If there are offices that don't feel safe for some people, let's swap. Let me go over and talk to them. And if I have to, I don't know, safe ways I will, but
if you have to put on them cowboy boots.
Put on them cowboy boots and get a little accent, and there you go.
Well, look, I send Marci into lots of offices where I can't go in. I can't go in looking the way I do. And thank you for your service, Marci.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for using me. No, we have to be clever. We have to play dirty because they're playing dirty. So we have to be strategic about it for sure.
Have I ever used my grandmother's address in Wichita Falls to get a meeting with someone?
Love that so much. We're at the end of our hour. Toonch, do you have any final thoughts?
Let's talk about Taylor's endorsement. Well, no, that's for a whole other episode. I do want to say,
thank you, Taylor Swift. I never hear me say that again.
Thank you, Taylor. She's the queen of my heart. I sobbed that morning. I did. I told Marci and Lori. Lori's the one that said, I got up and this just, I'd watched the debate. And Lori, I picked up the phone. She said, well, the Lord has spoken. I said, oh my God. And I cried. Thank you, Taylor. Anyway, no, that's not what I was going to say. What I was going to say is I want to make an announcement that, yes, our community gathering, yes, please tell folks what's happening Monday.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay. So, my step. So after we do the care model, we invite organizations to come back and get continuous feedback from the community. So we are having a community data gathering is what we call them. We have them every month. And our September community data gathering is going to feature Lioness. So it'll be this upcoming Monday at 5:30 p.m. at the Georgetown Public Library, second floor, Friends Hewitt Rooms, go second floor. I'd love to see anyone that is able to make it. We're going to go more over the solutions, the metrics that Lioness identified during their care model. So I know we talked a little bit about that in data. What did they come up with? You can find out at this meeting. And then we'll have an activity to really dive deeper into that and get feedback on how we can continue to support the work that Lioness is doing. I just ordered food and sweet, so I will have snacks for people if you come. So I'd love to see everyone there.
Yes, we're so excited about it. And also tomorrow, just another reminder about your training tomorrow at 11:30 to 1.
It's 11:30 to 1. I think we'll probably get out a little earlier than that. We just like to have that cushion for that last activity that we do. But this is going to be an opportunity for folks to hop on Zoom, learn a little bit more about our Innocence Initiative, what adultification bias is and how they can disrupt it, and meet folks from across the state of Texas and the country, really. We have folks who are registered, about 82 people that are registered right now. So from Houston, Austin, Dallas. We have some folks from the East Coast that will be joining. So if y'all are available, I'd love to have you join.
And you can register, find the information here and also on Measure's website, social media. And also, if you're close to the Dallas area in November, the three of us will be having a very cool presentation engagement at the Judicial Commission on Mental Health about the stereotypes that women and girls and gender expansive people face in the criminal legal system. It's going to be good. So sign up for that. Please attend that. Angel, I adore you. I am so glad that you and Mimi were here tonight.
Thank y'all for having us.
And Max, it was good to see his face too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us for REC and bringing one of your fearless leaders, Meme Styles. We appreciate both of your insight and your work so very much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing. If you're watching from your cell phone, thanks for hitting that screen. And if you're listening wherever you hear your favorite podcasts, please leave us a review. We would love to hear your feedback, and that helps us to reach an even broader audience. We will be back here, same time, same place, 1 week from today, 7 p.m. Central Time. See you all then.
Let Toonchi sing. Let Toonchi sing.
Out with us on the Recyard.